Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Crib right here every Wednesday night. And it seems like tonight everything is working. But hey, I see all my guys are here. I see Don is down there. I'm looking at Mr. Bo is here. Worldwide Reg is here. So let's get started here. Let's make sure everything's working. Don, Dave, how you doing tonight?
Doing okay.
Hey, we can hear everybody so far. All right, we got one up.
All systems go so far.
What's up here, Reg?
What's going on, guys? Good to be with you. Guys, I can hear everybody. I don't know if everybody can hear me, but I can hear you guys.
Gotcha.
And we got Bo. What's up, Bo?
What's up, gentlemen?
Come on, buddy.
Good to see you guys.
How's it going over there? Up there, I should say.
Always running, man.
Always running.
Has spring come to Maryland, Dave?
Well, it did, and then this morning it dipped down into the 40s. They're doing a hot cool treatment to us, but it's still okay. I think spring is on its way.
How about your neck of the woods there, Reg?
80 degrees, my friend. Mid 80s. Already. Right. It's going to be hot as hell this summer.
Well, hey, better hot temperature-wise. What's everybody is, I guess, baseball is starting. We talked a little bit about baseball, and as usual, I threw a little snippet in here real quick because, as usual, baseball would not be baseball without something, So the latest now is these torpedo bats.
Torpedo bats, huh?
But, the thing I don't understand, if a guy is a 200 hitter, a torpedo bat is not going to make him a 400 hitter all of a sudden. At least that's what I believe. I mean, if a guy is not connected with the sweet spot of the bat, he's not connected with the sweet spot. But Bo, you're one of those purist guys. I know you got some black socks hidden away somewhere there.
So the thing that's funny is, why do we care? Like, I mean, in this one, it's not like it's the Yankees are the only ones that have the ability to use this bat, right? So it's not like it's a unfair advantage for them. I find it funny that they're like, oh yeah, we had this engineer from MIT to, design this bat. We all played wiffle ball as kids, right? The red bat was easier to hit than the yellow bat, right? Because yellow bat was this big around, the red bat was this big around. If you increase the size of the barrel, it's going to be easier to make contact there. That being said, it's not enough bigger that the MLB is saying anything's wrong with it. And it's not like it's the first time this bat's existed. A year ago, they were using it in spring training in some places. So it's, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's a big story about nothing because there's not a lot of sports going on at the moment. But, if it fits within MLB's regulations, then I don't really know why it's a story. Everyone can have it. MLB doesn't care about it. Should be fine. That being said.
Yeah. Is this a bigger deal than all the drugs in the past? Like, if this is not, then what are we really talking about here? I feel like this is a speed bump on the MLB radar. If we're looking at the history and all the things that have really taken place that they've let go, then I'm not sure exactly why this would even be on the radar at all, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the guy's taking a bowling pin up there. I don't think the average fan, unless somebody told you that they were using them, you wouldn't notice the difference between that and any other bat. And it wasn't like, like I said, you had a 200 hitter all of a sudden, he walked up to the plate and hit 3 home runs. I mean, the strike zone's still the same. I mean, they, you know, what's
I
your
mean,
thought on this?
Judge still yanked out 3 or 4 with a normal bat.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, one of the things that they're saying is it depends on the swing of the batter because it's putting more of the weight back toward the wrist. But the rule, it's 3.02 is the rule. It hasn't really changed that much since the 1890s. And so this bat would have been legal in the 1890s because the rule talks about it being solid wood. It gives like the size parameters, including the diameter and no foreign substances, but it doesn't talk about the shape at all. And so if this bat had been introduced in the 1890s, it would have been legal back then. And what I look at is, does anybody complain about the change in fielding gloves? I mean, they've changed dramatically over the years. And I looked it up, and like the error rate is half today what it was in the 1890s when they were like half the guys were barehanded and they had really good gloves. And that's changed the game dramatically over the years is the improvement in the gloves. And nobody talks about that at all. And that impacts the statistics just like a change in the bat. And they didn't make it a bigger bat than, outsized from the rules. And it's still solid wood. So, the pitchers are just going to have to adjust. Maybe if they pitch more to the outside, maybe they'll find that those batters are having a tougher time, getting good contact, because it thins out toward the end of the bat. So.
Well, we got one picture that says, like if they can use torpedo bats, then pitchers should be able to use pine tar. What do you think about that?
hey,
Well, I mean, then now you're getting into the rules. I mean, these bats they would have been legal in 1890. And, certain like spitballs and stuff like that, I'm not sure when they were made illegal, but it's been a long time because, even back in the 60s, they were talking about the guys putting stuff underneath the rim of their cap and stuff like that. So here, it's within the rules the way it's always been.
I figure if since baseball is going to strike again anyway, and they're going to need help coming back to life, steroids brought them back last time. When they come back, give them 4-inch barrels on aluminum bats. Let's see if we can break some bricks out of a building across the street.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to our sports. Whatever happened to it, if it's not broke, don't try to fix it. I mean,
But they've always done stuff. I mean, they've raised the mound, they've lowered the mound. I mean, and they've made changes all throughout the years.
Well, if you can find a competitive edge within the rules, I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. So right. if they found a way to make the bat better for their hitters within the rules, okay, like I'm not mad at it. If it degrades from the game, then maybe something like that. Yeah, Steve-O, the bigger bases that's dumb. Like I'm not a fan. I did appreciate them not being able to check a runner forever.
Some guys got little feet, Dave. So.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah. Hey, but. Baseball, that's we'll see what they'll come up with. Like you say, Bo, it looks like they're heading for a strike, and should be interesting to see all this money being thrown around. So, guys, here we are again. And this year for long time that I can remember, we have all 4 number ones in the Final Four. All right. I ask the question every week: Duke or the field? Bo.
Duke. I mean, they look like they are on a mission, and I mean, they look like they're the best team.
Yeah. Well, I'm the guy that picked the University of Auburn, so we'll see. Yeah, I'm figuring maybe Charles will hear me and maybe send me a mortgage payment or something. But anyway, yeah, I'm taking the field just because I like Auburn. You know, it's almost it's not quite as bad as the Clowns thing, but Duke, Duke in North Carolina, I don't know. Yeah. I'm glad
I'm
to
a
see it.
Gonzaga fan, so I always get disappointed, around the anyway.
Reggie.
This is the part where I have to admit and be like Dave, just be out here and say I did not watch any of this. I don't know any of these people. And another thing here, I do. Well, let me take Duke because I do know Cooper Flagg, but Cooper Flagg is literally the only human being I know of any of these kids playing. So I'm gonna take Duke because I have to take Duke anyway. My grandmother used to work there, so I inherited Duke. It's like Alabama is inherited. Duke is inherited for me, so I have to take Duke anyway. But in this particular case, it's easy because I don't know any of the other teams. So I'm going to definitely stick with Duke here and Cooper Flagg. Let's go, Duke.
Dave.
Well, I'm in one bracket because Steelers Depot has they have a bracket on the ESPN March Madness thing, and there's like 21 guys, and I'm in fourth place right now. Although I can't win, but I'm at least in fourth place. But the only team I didn't pick to be in the Final Four was Florida. I messed up on that, but I got the other three, and I picked Duke originally, thinking that, hey, if Cooper Flagg is healthy enough, because he was hurt in the ACC tournament, and if he was healthy enough to play, I figured that was the team, and so I'm sticking with Duke.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I like the University of Auburn. I got to see. You got to kind of prove it to me. Even though I do, know the tradition of the ACC and all that, but hey, I think the SEC might break through this year.
Yeah, I see the guys in the comments. They're talking about baseball still. Steve-O wants the fields the same size everywhere. Which I'm old school. I liked when each field was unique, and then the batters had to adjust to you had the wall up there with the Red Sox and
just robbing people. Just those statistics. Just those batters had a much harder time over there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, well, I mean, I just think here in Seattle, because our park is big, it's a harder park to get the ball out. So you can blast a really long out. So I mean, if they were closer in size, that's where I was agreeing with Steve-O there. Like, if there was something relatively close dimensionally, because I mean, some of the parks are significantly different.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy. It's not a crazy idea.
Yeah, I mean, quite naturally. I mean, it's going to be different if you're playing for either the Yankees or the Dodgers. I mean, you got to put people in them seats, to take care of that payroll, So, I mean, I don't know about the maybe, like football, all the same dimensions, but they not necessarily have to be the same size. Like, it's not like you're going to make right field 210 feet,
Yeah.
and make left field 600, but some kind of, like maybe, the same dimensions, which the infield is the same dimensions in all the parks.
Yeah, I just think you're similar. Like, they don't have to be cookie cutter, but
Yeah, I mean, I'd have went for that rather than bigger bases. I'm with you. Could Ricky Henderson have stole 100 bases? Maybe 200 with these bigger ones, huh?
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, you kidding me? 300, man, easily.
Oh, okay, guys. Still a little college football to cover here. Anybody want to talk about Deion's money? We count everybody else's. Deion, what, 54 mil, 5-year extension?
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I get it though. It's where the contracts are going, and he took over a program that was a one-win program. Within 2 years, he gets him to a bowl game. That's with all new coaching, all new kids. I mean, he's having success. Do I think he wins a national championship there? No, that's probably above what they're going to do in Colorado. But at the same time, he's making the program relevant.
Correct. By
which
himself,
justifies the money. Yeah, I mean, it justifies the money. Whether you win a national championship or not, you're making the program relevant in the world of football, and you're winning games, and you're bringing high-profile talent. Those are all the things the schools want. So whether he gets all the way to that pinnacle, I don't know if they're worried about that. They'd like it, but I don't think it's the requirement.
Hey, at least 2 first-round draft picks. Reg, what do you think?
I think echoing what Bo said, he single-handedly made the school relevant. If Deion wasn't there, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Let's just be honest with ourselves here. If Deion wasn't there, we'd be talking about wherever Deion is where we would be talking about. And he just happens to be in Colorado, and I think Colorado recognizes that. And then he said, you know what? This guy's at least got us in the headlines. And if you stay in the headlines, that can be a recruiting tool unto itself, just being relevant and being in a relevant program. So I think it's money well spent, in my opinion.
Dave, I think this kind of dispels any rumors of him leaving for the NFL anytime soon.
Well, who knows? Depending on what he's offered, but
that's true.
For this
what year,
it comes down to is the return on investment, and I think it should be pretty easy for them to see. This is how much money that the school was making before he came. This is how much the program is raking in now that he's here, and I doubt that they're offering him something where they're losing money on the program. So good for him, and but you never know. I mean, he could end up jumping to the NFL at some point.
Absolutely. In next year, it could happen, guys. And we know how this goes.
I mean, these contracts are fungible. I mean,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is it could be like Belichick's, where had he left, a month ago, he would have to pay back $1 million of it, and he could have went back to the NFL. So I mean, you have to imagine there's verbiage in there that helps him get out of it if he needs to. So, I'm sure there's a fine and some sort of payback or whatever, but you can bet that there are outs for him to be able to get out if he wants to.
Yeah, they have agents too, and those agents want to make money too. So,
yeah, of course, but hey, $54 million man in Colorado. I mean, it might not be Las Vegas or Hollywood, but 54 mil is 54 mil.
Yeah, but
it's a long way in Colorado.
It's Deion, remember, it's how bright are the lights?
Right, man, it's true.
I don't know, the bright lights or big check. Let's see.
That's pretty bright during the day. Those mountains are tall. You're pretty close to the sun.
Bo, I want to ask you, what's going on there? Stanford, they've hired Frank Reich. We know, he's an ex-Colt. we got Luck running the program. Had to get rid of the last coach for he thought he was still living back in the day, but Luck. What do you think here? Luck, Reach, Stanford. Does the beat go on or what? Yeah.
I mean, I think what's interesting about it is they're conceding that there's no future here. Great for Frank Reich getting a job, but both of them acknowledge this is a 1-year deal. So Frank Reich wants back to the NFL, and Stanford acknowledges that he's not their guy. So, I mean, I don't know how optimistic you can feel about this particular season. I'm really curious what that does for bringing in talent, because if you're a Frank Reich guy, like if you like him, he's not going to be there anyway. So you're not going to go to that school for him. And then are you going to go get recruited there when you don't know who's on the other side of it? So I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a weird approach, but maybe it goes awesome and he stays. But because they did it the way they did, where it's a 1-year deal, that just seems like a very strange way to try and recruit.
That deal is a little bit longer than his time in Carolina, right? Like if he was to stay that whole time out, like I mean, that's an eternity.
So if we're going that route, like Carolina has had more coaches in the last 3 seasons than the Steelers since they became a team.
Since inception, right? Since their inception, Tepper's just getting them out of there. It's just not enough for him, right?
He's like, let's go.
Talk about a hot seat. Now there's a hot seat. It doesn't matter who you are. So,
but the other thing too, the other variable now that wasn't there 5 years ago was the transfer portal.
Yeah, sure.
If you're a good player, you want to stick with the program that looks like they don't know where to go. They have an interim coach. How long are you going to stay there? You might think, well, hey, I might have better chances with a better established program.
Yeah, like you said, the portal does make a difference now, but the portal does go both ways. So
I mean, not if there's instability. It pretty much leaves.
Who's going to want to go there?
I mean,
I'm going to go there this year and then not know who's going to be there next year.
I mean, the best example of that is my Washington Huskies, right? Our coach leaves, and we ended up with 2 returning starters because of the transfer portal.
Brutal.
Your coach, I mean, but are you going to stay when you're like, okay, we don't know who the coach is. The entire staff left. We were just in the championship game. We lose our quarterback to the draft, and we have uncertainty everywhere. Yeah, you're looking, right? Especially because they've made the portal so easy. I mean, the thing opens like 3 different times during the year, which is why so many schools are starting to step away from the spring game. Because why have it? Because you could play the spring game.
An opportunity for other teams.
Right. Not even on the team anymore. There's somebody else scouting your spring game out there.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's just weird.
I want to get your thoughts on that, Bo. We talked about that a couple weeks ago when you weren't here about the spring game. If you do make the playoffs, you have extra games now, and as you mentioned, the guys that are there, I think how I put it, you get your starters in the spring and your backups. Like now is the time when your backups are coming out of the portal. Most of the main guys have left. How do you think, Bo? These teams cutting out the spring games. I mean, I hear they cut out the Colorado Syracuse. What was it? The scrimmage?
So they actually want to try and do that one. So Colorado wants to try and do a spring game. Dion actually said this may be the last one there is because of the way, college football is going. But for teams pulling out of it, it makes all the sense in the world to me. I mean, why would you want to have your starters in there to have other teams come and poach them? Because you, again, have another opening of the portal. And so at this point, if I'm obligated to play a spring game, it's all of my third stringers. Let's see what we got in depth, because I'm not letting you steal my starters.
Yeah, but then they'll be taking all your developing players too.
I mean, and that's why so many schools are just like, hey, you know what? We're
just abandoning it altogether, right?
Exactly. And, ultimately, they're destroying the culture of college football anyway, and any tradition ever involved in it. Again, Pac-12 bitterness. So, I mean, at this point, it's professional sports. It's going to be 2 super conferences. So, you're going to see a lot of these traditional things go away because it's not amateur football anymore.
Well, with that in mind, Bo, is there a future in Division III? I mean, but as we also talked about last week, but we only had 7 non-FBSU players that got invited. Whereas usually you get I think that was the lowest in a decade. You usually get 20, 25. But 7. I mean,
So
I blame that on the portal.
Well, I think there is, especially as you see the limitations to college football rosters now. Them trimming them so that they have to be 150 players or less is gonna bolster some of those
105, though.
Or 105, sorry. 105. But it's going to bolster those smaller schools' rosters because the guys that would have been on some of those bigger schools can't be there anymore. And were they a depth piece for a big school? Sure. But they might be a starter in a smaller one, and that may give them some extra opportunities. Certainly give them more time on TV. So, I mean, ultimately, that limitation probably does help lower level football.
Okay. Reg, give me your thoughts here before I start talking about your team.
On which particular part? Which aspect?
Spring football.
Why have it? Yeah. I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, when we NIL, which I'm gonna definitely discuss here and then the next subject as well, it's just a sea change. It's changing everything. It's like the ripple effect is massive. So it's just yet another thing that would change.
Agree, Dave? We kind of talked about it a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, the smaller schools are always going to have players, and now what's going to happen is with the limits on the rosters, the big teams aren't going to have as many walk-ons. And so all those walk-ons that used to be on these bigger teams, well, they're going to be spread out to teams that had smaller rosters, including non-FBS schools. So maybe in that sense, it's a good thing because it's giving them more opportunities to get on the field. But we'll just have to see. This is only a few years old, and it's going to continue to evolve over the next few years. And I think that some programs are going to start to try to put, more limits on the number of transfers that can be done and things. I'm sure we're going to see a number of changes over the next several years as they try to digest this whole thing.
Okay. Reggie, has expansion made Bama and also ran in the SEC? Will Bama, miss the playoffs again this year? And what happens if they do? Are you going to reevaluate, Reg? I mean, what's happening here?
Well, if they miss the playoffs, they're going to run DeBoer out of there. Like, I mean, there's nothing to be evaluated there. I mean, if that's what happens, I mean, at least they're going to want to. He would have to put up an amazing season for them not to want to run him out of there after that. But I think that's also just a symptom of following up legendary coach like Saban. It's the unrealistic expectations that can come with a fan base after the run that we've had. When it comes to expansion making Alabama and also ran the SEC, I think that there's a bigger story afoot, I think, in the entire NCAA. And I think I've been talking about this since NIL and the transfer portal have been here. Guys, this is it. It's over. Like, it's not the same. It's over. Like the college football as we knew it back in the day is just changed. So if you thought that those same 4 or 5 teams that would dominate, and it just so happens my team happened to be one of those teams. But I'm also happy for the parity. I'm happy to see some other teams kind of get on the same ground. With all of that being said, I am still a Bama fan, and we do still think we're going to win every game. And that's just the way it goes down here. And that's still how it goes now. We think we're going to win every game, but I think realistically, guys, the time of 3 or 4 teams dominating for 5, 10 years or so, I think it's just going to be over. I think this, and I'm happy for it, to be honest with you. This new style of things is not something that rubs me wrong at all. It is what it is. And it's just interesting to see all the changes that seem to be happening minute by minute, man. This thing's changing all the time.
So is this the year that they expand the playoff again, where it goes to 14 teams? Is that right?
I believe so.
Okay.
We're headed to March Madness, guys. We're headed to March Madness here. What is it, 64 teams?
That's right.
Yeah, man, we're headed there. We're headed there, slowly but surely.
I'd like it to get to 16 and then stop so that there's no buys.
Okay. I can get with that.
Yeah, I like 16 also, but I think you guys are right as far as, you used to go to a school for school spirit. Now you see who has the most NIL.
Got the most money, man. You might not even go to the school. Send me the offer. Like, send me the money. I'm not even going to visit if I don't think that money's not looking great. I'm not going to see your state, buddy. Let's just keep it. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. They say all things change. Oh man. Okay, guys. Dave, what's happening with Penn State and Pitt this year?
Yeah, well, I haven't been following Pitt too closely, but Penn State, they've been getting into their spring training and James Franklin. One of the things they were talking about, the new defensive coordinator they got from Ohio State, and they say he doesn't talk.
Yeah, just rub it in. That's okay. Yeah, all right.
And but they say that he doesn't say much on the field. It's really more of he's an overall strategist, and it's like once they get into the room, then he goes over the game plan and all this type of stuff. But it looks like he's being incorporated well. Penn State looks strong at running back. They got their quarterback back. Offensive line, that looks good. They're recruiting wide receivers, and that's where they need help. And then, somehow trying to replace Tyler Warren, the tight end. And that'll be a combination of wide receivers and a couple of other tight ends. On defense, they got a lot of returning guys. They lost a huge piece on the defensive line, but they look like they should be in the college football playoff. I'm not going to say that they're going to win it, but I see them getting into the college football playoff and maybe winning a couple games in there.
Bo, what's happening with the Catholics out there fighting Irish?
Man, we'll see what they can do if they can return, right? Like they lost some pieces. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how their recruiting looks this year.
Yeah. So with the NIL, which I'm sure Notre Dame's not worried about, but with just the way that, like you said, Bo, we might be on our way to 2 conferences. At least we know now that, we can already see 4 shaping up. But so how much longer is the Irish and Independent, Bo?
That has to change in the next few years, because all of a sudden these conferences are getting big enough. They don't need out of conference games, right? I mean, you're looking at the Big Ten with 18 schools already. And if they add a couple more, say the Pac-12 finally fails, they grab Oregon State and Wazoo, right? That's a 20 team conference. So if you were to put that in a Western Division, Eastern Division, whatever, you could basically fill your entire schedule within your conference. So all of a sudden, it's going to be real hard for Notre Dame to get a notable schedule. And if your ultimate goal is to get to national championships, you can't be playing lower end conferences and hope to compete with conferences that are going to send, 2 or 3 schools. Right. So, I mean, it's a situation where they're probably going to have to join one. I mean, the rest of the school is already in one anyway. Right. I mean, the rest of their sports are in a conference. So football is ultimately not going to get a weight.
Yeah. What do you think there, Reg? You agree with Bo?
Yeah, I think that Notre Dame, it's interesting, the situation. And another thing about the Notre Dame situation is how long they've been able to hold on to the situation, even up to this point. It's been a great run for them, I think, even if it was to come to an end here soon. So, I do agree. I don't think it's something that's going to run for another century or so.
Good evening there, Mr. Scott. I see you you the man in black tonight. You coming to deliver bad news? You got your sickle with you? What's up?
No, hello, gentlemen. I see, boy, some of my other nemesis is. Oh, this is unbelievable! Wow, boy, what a surprise! This is Jolt. This is a real jolt. See, 2 of my big time nemesis is here. So, but no, I'm just chilling. I did a thing today that I had to do, and I just throw it out there quick. I don't want to, mess up the flow here, but I ordered a torpedo bat. I don't know if people have heard of the torpedo bats, but I ordered one, and I figured that it should be something that I should have in my arsenal. So I'm looking forward to me and my brother going out to the batting cage with the torpedo bat, and my brother's talking about making a comeback. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what the bat is, but I'll give a report when I get the torpedo bat. You gentlemen that might be something you're interested in.
Hey, them strikeouts are the same with any bat.
Are those sunglasses? That's what I wanted to know. Are those sunglasses that you got on? Are those prescriptions? I didn't know if it was sunny over there. I'm checking my time over here. I know I'm behind time wise. I mean, I'm on the East Coast, man. It's nighttime over here.
They're
Maybe
called
it's not.
tinted. For your information, man. They're tinted. Okay. Yeah.
It is still daytime out on the West Coast here.
Okay. That explains it.
Well, Mr. Scott, we ask everybody else. I mean, how's it up there? Have you thought out what's going on?
Oh, it's been a really mild, winter. We did get a little bit of snow. Oh, I think last night before, but it's all gone now. And so, we're full speed ahead. I think we've seen the end of that. I think I'll be out, doing a little bit of biking, and who knows, I might even do a little bit of jogging around the lakes. I like the view when I go around the lakes these days. So, and I live within probably 2, 3, 4 miles of 3 or 4 different lakes in the city here. So, looking forward to it. A nice nice springtime. Yeah.
Yeah, I like walking around the beaches too, Mr. Scott. Out here in Southern California, a lot of sights, natural wonders, and
Yeah,
all
man. It's
kinds
not
of
even after 10 o'clock yet, man. Like we're just been so straight, man. It's so straight. I mean, goodness gracious, man.
It's
Well,
been
now,
that kind
now
of
that I
day.
see the Great Bowl, which I haven't seen, I mean, this is a long lost. I haven't seen Sam Darnold. Have they made any comments about that, or am I too early on that?
No,
Cartwheels now.
you're a little too early for that, Mr. Scott.
Oh,
Goodness, man.
You did come in, swinging, because we started out the show with talking about the torpedo bats,
yeah. Well, mine's on the way, so it's on the way.
So have the Twins ordered theirs yet, or what?
Well, now that they're not playing the Cardinals, they beat the White Sox, so White Sox. I think they're still going to
Everybody
be
does, don't they? I
yeah,
mean,
they're no good. So I might share it with them. Who knows? We'll see. When I get the review on the torpedo bat, I'll let people know. But kind of like what Bo was saying, they asked the great Hank Aaron one time about steroids. He says, "What do you think about that?" And he says, "Well, I don't know a no peel or no juice that can make you hit a curveball." So I have to go along with what he said.
Yeah, well, it should be interesting to see as the season goes on what we do about that particular thing in baseball.
There's 6 teams already using it. I don't know why everybody made such a big deal about the Yankees doing it, other than them just yanking balls out. But I mean, there's 6 other teams that are using the bat, so it's not like it's only them.
Well, it wasn't like the bat boy, jacked one out like he should have. Aaron Judge.
Well, and Judge wasn't even using it.
Right, he's not even using it. Yeah.
But it is going to be interesting because we talked about pitchers and pitching injuries because of throwing the way they throw the ball now. We've already had our first rumor that the torpedo bat causes elbow problems. So
would you even know yet?
Right. I was gonna say it's been like an hour. I've been using it for like an hour, man.
So
I mean, now Judge's new glove, like this might be a thing. I gave you the picture there. If you want to pop it up, I mean, this might give you a competitive advantage.
No, there we go. There we go, man. That's the standard issue. We were just talking about that ERA decreasing. And this is one of the reasons why.
I hear that'll help him track down fly balls. I don't know.
Oh, I go to see the Yankees every year. And I go out in right field, and I'm the one that stands up and says, "All rise for the Judge." And I get booed. Everybody boos me. But, Yankees are still my favorite team because what people don't realize, when I was a kid, there was no Twins.
Okay.
There was no Vikings.
Ah, man.
All we saw was the Packers and the Yankees. And so
fair enough.
That's why.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Judge is my favorite guy. Judge is the man. He's the man in baseball. I don't know. Both disagree, but that's fine.
We were just kind of finishing up our talk on college football here, Mr. Scott. If we do expand to 16 teams, well, right now Bo was talking about 14. Do you think that now we'll see more big time teams with 3 or 4 losses? Now that you have, the Big 20 and the SEC 18 and with all these bigger leagues out here now, or what do you think, Mr. Scott? Are we going to start seeing more 3 and 4 loss teams here with the expanded playoffs? You think undefeated seasons may be a thing of the past?
Well, it's hard to say, with NIL and people being able to move around and leagues expanding, and you can duck playing people, kind of like guys like Bo and the guy from Atlanta ducking me. You can duck teams, that like we don't play Ohio State, we don't play Michigan, we don't play. So I don't know. I don't know what the thing of college is. I mean, the whole NIL thing is really, to me, upset the whole apple cart. Basketball, football. It's going to be very interesting.
What do you think, Bo?
About Scott thinking I'm ducking him? Like,
right. Yeah, I was going to ask that too. Like, am I following up that question as well? Are we that the new line of questioning? I think that's not on my list of topics to go over today.
I feel like I'm sitting right here.
Speaking of ducking, see,
right, and I think somebody ducked out as soon as he started speaking. Somebody ducked out of here. As a matter of
That's
fact,
what I was thinking.
He's like, "Let me get out of here real quick."
But yeah, no, I do think that 3 or 4 lost teams are going to be a thing, right? Because you are now playing within your conference. You're going to have better schools. You can't put your whole schedule together with cupcake schools when you're out of conference. So I think I think the years of undefeated teams, like, they're never going to be gone, maybe, but you're not going to see them very often anymore.
You agree, Reg?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been ringing that bell the whole time. It's a very different world we're living in right now. I mean, especially if they keep increasing the playoffs, and it's inevitable if they keep increasing the playoffs, for sure that you will. It doesn't matter. But I think that even at the threshold of 14, 16 teams, you're going to have that happening.
Now you could have a conference champion with 4 losses, depending upon what division they're in.
I mean, the Pac-12 crowned one that didn't even have a winning record.
Gracious, man. Times have changed, guys. Times have changed.
Bo, any word on the Pac-2?
Weirdly, no. It's actually been quiet on that front. So I didn't hear anything about them actually signing that TV deal. Makes you wonder if this thing's going to fall apart. I mean, it's already fallen apart. Let's be honest.
It feels like it's already there. Like, what are they going to say? There's only 2 teams.
I've been calling for the death of this thing since they started this, and they keep like, "Oh no, we're going to resurrect it," and somehow, scavenge teams from other conferences. But I mean, everything they're doing sure looks like they're just going to run this into the ground the next 2 years and then be done.
Yeah, no TV deal is probably a good sign of death. Mm-hmm. I would say. So, guys, Mr. Scott ducked out on us.
He'll be back as soon as me and Bo sign off. He'll be back at
that. Okay, guys. So the NFL has actually finally decided to include the statistics of the All-American Football Conference. Just like they did, baseball did it with the, Negro leagues. We've seen, I think football has put all everybody else's statistics in, but the All-American Conference. But do you think NFL history has finally come out of the dark ages, Bo?
Oh, I thought they just felt bad for the Browns, and they're like, "Hey, this is how we can give them some championships."
Goodness gracious, man! Is that Otto Graham years? Is that they got to get Otto in there? Like, is that what we're talking? They're like, man, we need to include Otto in here. This is looking real unfair.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I like it when they include all of the records. I mean, since they brought all of these conferences and stuff together to make the NFL, it's good that all of those records are in there. But it sure did feel like maybe this was just you know what? The Browns been going through it. Let's throw them a bone. It's the dog pound anyway.
I thought it was a shot at Belichick myself. But anyway, what do you think, Reg?
Yeah, I'm with Bo on this. It's funny because I don't even know why this would even be news, and why does it take them this long? Like, why? What happened between last year and this year that made it so special? I mean, these records didn't just get made. So I'm not understanding, like, what happened different. Did they have like a meeting? They're like, you know what? Finally, let's just do this, guys. Let's just do it and get it over with. I'm not sure, but I'm definitely happy though that it has been done. Sure.
Dave.
Yeah, I mean, only 3 of the teams actually went over to the NFL. It was the Browns, the 49ers, and the Colts. So the other, it was only an 8-team league. But Paul Brown, he gets 62 more victories on his record, which I think will probably, I'll have to look, but it'll probably eclipse Belichick from really having a shot. But I have to take a look at that. And the 4 titles.
It moves Paul Brown up to 7th. It moves him up to 7th on the all-time list.
On the all-time victory list.
Yes.
Oh, I'm surprised by that. I thought he had more. But, he gets 62 wins. They get their 4 championships. They already had 17 players from that league in the NFL Hall of Fame because it's the Football Hall of Fame. It's not the NFL Hall of Fame. So, yeah, why not? I mean, they some years ago, I think all the way back in the 70s, they incorporated the AFL statistics going back to 1960, because the 2 leagues didn't merge till 68. So why not?
All right. Well, I'm not sure. Like you said, they incorporated everybody else. Mr. Scott, what's your thought on that?
Well, it's, like,
or are you ducking that question?
Oh man,
like what we've been saying,
Goodness
I
gracious.
mean, it's almost like a DEI, tariffs. I mean, when you look at the games back then, the Otto Grahams, Jim Brown, they didn't play as many games. I mean, they only played 12 games, and then they played against teams that were in places like Rochester and Fort Wayne, and people that they're just not on the map anymore.
Rochester. I mean, what happened to what's wrong with Rochester? Like they caught an unnecessary stray right there, and Fort Wayne caught an unnecessary. Both those cities just caught unnecessary strays for some reason. Goodness gracious.
There was a different amount of games that they played. I mean, I think when the Vikings came in, I think they may have played just 12 games. And then it went up to 14. It went up. So, the records are kind of. And I think it's okay to recognize all that play the game. I think those records make it a good, keeping in mind though that a 12 like Jim Brown, what he did, I mean, he just ran by people I've never seen anybody like him. I mean, and plus he was like the biggest guy on the field.
He was a generation ahead of the entire league.
Yeah, he was like the biggest guy, at that time. I mean, for 9 years and then quitting at 30 years old with all the records and everything he could have done. So I like acknowledging the older generation of people. I think it's important.
All right. Well, now I'm going to ask you a little bit about the game there, Mr. Scott, because this year we're going to do some things different. In overtime, both teams will get a possession of the ball. There'll be no more chain gang. We got Sony technology is going to show us that line to game. So, that referee's eye looking down there, no more of that. No more of that. We got, let's see what else. We got the onside rule, the onside kick rule stays. We're still going to have this stupid kickoff thing here, and they bring the ball out to the 35. Replay is going to be expanded. But we got 16 teams that, voted against the tush push, but they just decided to table that. So
that's because you need 24. You need 24 to be able to pass it. So
So, what do you think, there, Mr. Scott? What do you think about these new rules?
I mean, I don't know which way is up. I mean, basically, they should just get Neil deGrasse to be the commissioner. I mean, he'll come out and explain why the sun and the stars and all this has something to do with football, and the ball is going to fall this way, and because of the shape of the ball, it's going to turn this way when the sun is this way. I don't like it. I mean, I just like, two men come in, one man walks out. And I think that we've gotten away from that aspect of football. I mean, I really do. All these rules and all of these, going to putting on hoods and going to New York and asking them, they're all there at the game. They see what happened. Okay, just make a call and go with it. And that's the thing. People are afraid to make decisions. They're afraid to make a decision. And I don't know what to think of it. I mean, really, overtime, I don't want to see continue to play overtime. We used to have sudden death, and that's it. If you get the coin toss, you get the kick. If you do something, well, the game's over. So be it. It didn't go your way that day. You come back the next day. So I just think it's they're trying to do too much. But that's people say that I don't know. I mean, people are always telling me, you don't know. You get off my lawn kind of guy. That's not true.
That was kind of a get off my lawn-ish rant. I'm not going to lie to you. It approached it. It was kind of like, you can stay on the lawn, but I don't want you standing on it too long. It's kind of.
Yeah, you can be on the lawn, just not mine.
Yeah, you need to be walking off of it.
Shovel my lawn.
While you're at it.
Go off my lawn.
So, Bo, what do you think? I mean, now, the CD Lamb gestures banned. I mean, what do you think about the rule changes and the not rule changes, Bo?
Yeah, so the celebration thing, they're saying that somehow it's a gang affiliated, so I guess whatever. But the tush push thing, like, that shouldn't have gotten banned. Get better at defense. Like, if you can't stop it, the best way to stop the tush push is to be better on first and second down so they don't have 3rd and 1. Do your job. Don't eliminate something because they're good at it. Plus, everyone's allowed to do it. So just because they're good at it and you're not doesn't mean it shouldn't be a rule. So, yeah, I'm fine with that being tabled. It being a full-length overtime, they've already moved to the spot where everybody gets to touch the ball anyway. So this is the Kansas City rule where they don't want them to use 9 of the 10 minutes to drive down to score. So the other team can't really do anything with it. Them going with a full length quarter, since they've already made it so everybody gets the ball anyway, it made sense. I preferred the sudden death overtime. So, I'm with Mr.
Didn't they cut it down to 8 minutes?
No. Overtime was 10 minutes.
Yeah, I thought they could. I think they're cutting it down to 8.
No. It's a full 15-minute quarter.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, I mean, but I preferred it when it was sudden death because, again, it was make a stop, right? I mean, I get why they wanted to change it because now kickers can hit from midfield. But, it's still, once they've made it so that everybody can have the ball, it needed to be a full-length quarter, especially now that everybody can score a touchdown. And, so if that's the case, then, yeah, you need to be able to have enough time for a drive, which you don't really have in a 10-minute quarter if you have, 2 sustained drives back to back. So, I didn't mind that one being a full length quarter, but the expanded replay and the spotting of the ball, that was Josh Allen. That Josh Allen run is what helped usher this in, where on 3rd down, it looked like he definitely made it. 4th down, it was a judgment call, but they've already seen this technology work well in the UFL. And so they put the chip in the ball. They got, 30 cameras in there. They televised 22 of them. So, I mean, it's technology that exists that they know works. I mean, it makes sense that they bring it in. You're still going to have a chain gang. They're just not necessarily going to be heavily involved, but they're still going to be there because if if cameras go down or whatever, or the chip breaks in the ball, They still got to be able to spot the thing. So chain gang's still going to exist. They're just not going to be heavily involved anymore.
They're just tokens now. They kind of, but hey, technology, we all know what that's about. So, Bo, I'm going to assume you're on your usual time schedule here.
Yep.
So we got to get your Seahawks ready. I'll come to you and get you next. But Bo, the Seahawks, they have 3 compensatory picks. 137, 172, and 175. The team now has up to 10 picks as soon as they get compensated for what's Metcalf and the other guy. Bo, how do you like your Seahawks?
Let me get my popcorn. Let me get my popcorn before this. Would you just okay, quick,
buckle up, man? Yeah, no, I mean, so the thing is when it comes to Metcalf, right? I've been saying we should have been getting rid of him for the last year and a half.
Yeah.
So for him,
we don't want him for 2 years, but it didn't help me either. So.
Well, and you guys have what could be the most hilarious situation ever, because if you actually go get Rodgers, right, and then you have DK and Pickens, right, and you guys don't win right away, that is going to be the most toxic receiver quarterback room ever assembled. Like, I am here for it. That seems hilarious. But anyway, the Seahawks.
Man, that sounded terrible. That sounded terrible right there.
No.
The Rodgers part, man. Goodness gracious, man. The Rodgers part is terrible enough for me, man. Like, I'm not sure why that's even a thing. Like, why is that even happening?
And think about how much he likes to throw guys under the bus, right? And then when you watch what DK and Pickens do well is go balls, and they don't. Neither one of them run great routes, right? And Rodgers, if you're not like perfectly on your route, he's going to throw you under the bus. Everybody being hotheads, that sounds like great TV. Like, that is, if there's a mid-season Hard Knocks, like, that should be it.
Bo, we're talking about the Seahawks.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, they get Geno out of the room. He wanted $45 million a year, and they were up against some cap issues anyway. So moving on from him, I get it from a cap savings, right? So you move on from DK, which was a $31 million cap hit had he played for us. You move on from Lockett, also a $31 million cap hit, and then you have Geno, who wanted $45 million a year. So you bring Darnold in. I hope they have a plan for the offensive line, because this is what this is going to hinge on. But, when it comes to Darnold, you know what he is, right? Like, if he has time, he can throw the ball. Like, he has arm talent. When he is under heavy pressure, he makes bad decisions, right? And that was one thing that Geno was good at is – he threw for 4,000 yards running for his life. He was one of the highest pressure rate quarterbacks in the league. So I was a little worried that they were moving on from him. But, you replace DK with MVS, right? And MVS is a speed guy. So he gives you that go ball option, right? He runs a 4.37. He doesn't have great hands, but neither does DK. So that works out. And then you get rid of Lockett and you go and you get Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is a sure-handed guy. He runs very similar routes to Lockett. You get him for, what was it? I think it was like $8 million a year, something like that. So a significant savings over 31 mil, right? Then you go and you bring in a guy like Dexter Lawrence. And I mean, so they're starting to put this team together. It's intriguing. They grab a couple of depth pieces for the interior offensive line, which is the biggest hole on this team. But what's encouraging about going forward is they're not bringing any other interior offensive linemen in for interviews or anything until after the draft. When I was at the Senior Bowl, McDonald and Schneider followed the offense and defensive line units around all 3 days. All 3 days of practice. All they did was follow those units around. When you look at how deep those positions are in this draft, you can get a very similar guy from like position 12 or 13 through position 45 where you're picking. And when you talk about Seattle having 10 picks in the draft, 5 of them are in the top 100. So if they want to go and load up with, interior offensive linemen, maybe grab, a defensive lineman, stuff like that, those guys are there. They went and addressed the things that aren't heavy in this draft. They went and grabbed a quarterback, not a great quarterback draft. They fixed the receivers that they lost, not a super deep receiver draft. We don't need a running back, but there's lots of running backs there for the teams that do. But what this draft does have a lot of is offense and defensive linemen. And those are the things that not only do we have a lot of picks, but are a position of need for the Seahawks. So I actually kind of like what they're doing. Now, whether or not they pick the right guy, Schneider hasn't shown us that he can do that. But hey, here's hoping, right? There's the fan coming out of me like, oh, yeah, man. One time, man.
Eternal. Yeah, man.
So I had to throw my fan hat on for like a half a second of the analytics there.
Darnold is great in season, but when you get into playoffs, when you get into playoffs, it's a whole nother season. And he's already showed that, when he goes into those rarefied air, So
to be fair, even during the season, the 2 teams that beat him up at the end of the year were the same 2 teams that beat him up during the year.
Yeah.
They were able to get pressure on him. And the one thing about Darnold is when he has a lot of pressure in his face, he sees ghosts, right? Yeah. So you got to give him a clean pocket. And if he has one, dude can ball out.
Oh, yeah.
But it's got to be clean. The problem with the Seahawks is over the last 5 years, they've had a bottom 5 offensive line. That does not make me feel awesome as a fan of the team.
Well, give us your final thoughts before you leave us there, Bo.
I mean, that kind of was my final thought. Schneider, can you please get a good offensive lineman ever?
All right, Bo. Hey, man, as always, appreciate your time, my man. Thank you so much.
Great to see you guys.
Take care, Bo.
See everybody.
All right. Reg, now we'll get to you here. First of all, what did you think about the rule changes, Reg, and, banning, the signs?
The signs, I mean, I don't know. I guess I got to take their word for it. I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, people aren't throwing the CD Lamb gang sign around me. Like, I'm not sure what they said it. They said it was a gang sign. I just got to take their word for that. The both teams, and I got to jump on the board with the so wishing we can go back to sudden death, man. If there was anything we can roll back the clock on, I would love to go back to sudden death overtime. It just seemed like so much more intriguing. We might as well just start the whole game over at this point. We're just gonna keep adding quarters, adding minutes. I don't know. It kind of robs it of that. You used to get stops back in the day. I mean, was it so bad? I mean, was sudden death so bad back? Do I need to go back and watch games and see where sudden deaths sucked so horribly back in the day, where they just felt like it just needed to be taken out? I wish it was still in the measures, the Sony technology measuring the line of game. I'm with that. I would stay with that because I like the. I feel like there's a lot of football technology out there. When I say football, I mean like soccer technology that uses technology similar to a lot of this, and it seems to have worked for them. So we don't need to get guys down there with cards anymore, but it would be nice to see them on the field. I don't necessarily want to see them eliminated where we just got one guy running a tablet that's running 5 virtual refs or something like that. You know what I mean? Even if they are just tokens, I want to see a couple guys down there.
Huh? Any other rules, that you thought that, what about the tush push? You agree, hey.
Agreed on that. Yeah, absolutely. I have nothing to add to that for sure.
And a replay being expanded.
No issue with that at all.
Okay.
But, sudden death, what I liked about it is, okay, so you stop the other team and they have to punt. Okay, so then you get a chance because you stopped the other team from moving the ball. And I think that's what the whole thing of the game is stopping the other team when you need to.
That's what it used to. That's what the game used to be about. Now the game is about scoring points.
Well, I know. It's not about
like, let's give the offense another chance.
You're right.
It puts a whole other hour of commercial television on.
Well, that
is what it does.
I mean,
it's never going anywhere when put like that. When put like that, guys. I mean, it's here to stay. You're not taking that hour back.
What we're missing is the whole element of field position. I'll never forget watching a game with my dad, and I'm like, God, Dad, the game is 0-0 going down to the end of the game. He said, no, we're winning because we're on the 20-yard line and we can kick a field goal if it comes. So the whole idea of field position, really they go for it on fourth down now in their own territory.
Sure.
Yes.
In their own territory. They'll go for it on fourth down. And I'm like, what are you doing? So it's, it's been a change, I still love the game, but it's been a change.
Reg, got one last question for you before we let you go. Trade, up or down, Reg? You guys need a pass rusher. You need a cornerback, a center. Reg, what do you think about this draft? You are also kind of draft rich.
Well, here in the city, we want defense. Maybe I think that from what I talk to with a lot of the fan base, it seems to be offensive drafting fatigue. I think maybe because of the last few years, we've taken offensive players very early with the top. We've had like the 8th pick, like the top 3 years, or the last 3 years or so, and we've taken an offensive player with all of those picks. And while our defense has still been hasn't been great, and we just signed a pass rusher who's got like 8.5, 9 sacks, and that 8.5, 9 sacks is more sacks than anybody on our team had. So that was great to us. So this is the reality that we're dealing with here in Atlanta. We want as much defense as possible. A pass rusher. I think pass rusher is what most people want, and I'm kind of with them there. But the cornerback, and is that a center? Is that the?
Yeah, I said a pass rusher, a cornerback, or a center.
Yeah, pass rusher. You know what? For me, in that order, pass rusher, cornerback. But the center would be pass rusher, cornerback, then center. Like it would not. I would not be rushing the draft one.
Okay.
Defense needs to get better for sure. I mean, you see what the Eagles did. I mean, I don't understand how all the teams don't think that defense needs to get better. Right? We were just spending all this time talking about the offense, but in the Super Bowl, we see what showed up. I mean, it was that defense looked incredible. So, I mean, ours definitely needs to get better down here in the A.
What about Cousins? What are you going to do with Cousins? What's your great? You've got a great $1 million guy. What are you going to do with Cousins?
We're waiting for the phones to start ringing on this guy, man. If the phones start ringing, and we're going to be answering those.
6th-round draft pick for him.
I will get him out of here in a second. No, I will not mind him playing for the Steelers because what is it? Was Mason Rudolph? Or is that what we're working with right now? On the Steelers?
Mason Rudolph or Aaron.
And then if it's Aaron Rodgers, I will know anybody but Aaron Rodgers as well. And you know what's funny? I might entertain Mason Rudolph. Like if it's Aaron Rodgers or Mason, I might have to run Mason out. I mean, we're gonna lose, but I might have to run. If we're gonna lose, I'll lose with Mason. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, I would rather not. But I wouldn't mind Kirk Cousins going to the Steelers. It's not something I think would be crazy. It's not something I would be feel horrible about. And I think teams are going to knock on the door for him at some point. It'd be hard to imagine, guys, like we go into the season and Kirk Cousins is sitting on the bench. It's just hard to imagine that. It's hard to imagine.
On our town hall, one of the questions we asked was, would you prefer signing Aaron Rodgers or trading for Kirk Cousins? And the consensus is that they thought that they didn't like either choice, but if you had to choose one or the other, they felt that they had a better winning chance with Aaron Rodgers, even though he was 5 years older. And what they were pointing out was that both of them have had Achilles injuries.
Yes.
But Cousins has been throwing a lot of interceptions since his.
And he had a lot of turnovers in general. He's a turnover machine.
And that's what got him benched. He didn't really do. He didn't really do that here. He did not throw interceptions or turn the ball over. So that's kind of interesting how that flipped.
But that was before he got hurt, right?
Right. It'll be interesting to see too. And I think Kirk, guys, has only played 14 games coming off that. And in that 14 games he's played coming off that, he is 7-7. He has 3,500 yards. If he could fix 2 to 3 of those interceptions, I still think he has a positive interception to touchdown ratio. I got to look at that and see, but it's still very high. But if he fixes those, then you have a quarterback that has a positive interception touchdown ratio. Passes, I still think, completes in the 60s for his completion percentage. And only played 14 games coming off an Achilles injury. I mean, things can turn around. He's not like he's 50. So I'm just putting that out there. Like, he's 14 games removed. He's played in those 14 games. And then there are quarterbacks that he's literally better than playing in those 14 games.
Yeah, but he has a high price. He has a big contract. Big contract.
And I think I think we're going to end up having to eat some of that. I find if no matter what team he goes to, like, they're not eating that contract. I mean, we're going to be eating a good piece of that and hoping that Penix is that guy.
Well, Reg, we only got a couple more questions, man. You know, I'd love for you to stick around to hear what Dave has to say to the answers to my questions here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if Dave is going to talk about how Aaron Rodgers is not coming to the Steelers, I would love to stick around.
Oh, I've got to hear that.
If he can just shoot me a text right now and just let me know, Dave, like, hey, I'm going to talk about him, man. He's coming, and I'm going to be like, I got to get out of here, guys. I just can't. I can't stick around for this. Yeah, I'm good. I can hang out. I'm good.
I only got 2 more questions, and Mr. Scott, you still hanging out with us? I'm going to ask you about Jerry's boys before we close out the show here with Dave. But guys, what are you thinking about Jerry and Micah Parsons? Why is he all of a sudden? I mean, he threw $60 million at Dak, but all of a sudden he wants to wait and see with Micah Parsons. What do you think here? The Cowboys have they got 10 draft picks, including 3 in the 5th round. So what do you think here, Dave? Is what's up with Jerry and Micah? I mean, it's not like the Cowboys have all this money to play with. They're up against a cap, a salary cap hit too.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I don't know. You're asking me to read Jerry Jones's mind. I really don't know. I haven't looked at their cap situation. But you don't want to let a talent like that go. And how do you're creating a hole, and then how do you fill that hole? And and I guess a lot of it depends on what their cap situation. But I would have to take a look at that. Take a look at what their overall cap situation is, and see what they could offer. But I would want them on the roster, Michael Parsons, at the right price, and that's like with the Steelers. That's what they've always been about. Is we want these players, but we want them at where we value them, not where they value themselves. And I don't know. I don't know what's in Jerry Jones's head right now. In terms of his whole roster situation.
What do you think, Mr. Scott?
Well, Jerry Jones, as Dave said, it's unpredictable. I mean, think about it. I mean, he waited before he paid Dak. I mean, he waited. I think Dak had got hurt, and then they thought he wasn't going to do it, and then all of a sudden he gives him a big contract. I mean, everybody I'm still surprised by that. So you just never know what he's got in mind or what he's going to do. And I think somehow he'll be able to keep him. I mean, he's holding on this long, and this is a super talent, and they need someone anybody needs somebody at his position the way he plays. So I can't read the man, but I think he's going to stay there. I think he'll end up being there. But, we'll see.
It is a very, very deep draft class for defensive linemen. But I mean, are these guys replacements for Michael Parsons? Maybe eventually, but man, that's a lot of talent.
Yeah. What do you think, Reg?
I think that we talked about this question in relation to Dak Prescott, and it was almost worded the exact same way. Dave was on that show, and Bill was on that show, and I'm going to use the exact same answer that I gave for that Dak Prescott question when you asked it, and that is Jerry Jones tends to wait and then overpay. Yeah. He's going to wait and overpay. That's just what he always does. He waits and overpays, and this is almost like the exact same thing we had about CeeDee Lamb. He's going to wait to the very end, and he's going to act like he's going to let these guys walk out of there when we know that he's not ever entertaining letting these guys walk out of there. It's just running. The meter's running. And yeah, I feel like there's no way. I mean, in my opinion, guys, Micah Parsons walking out of Dallas would be shocking to me if that actually happened.
Yeah, I don't see it happening, But then again, like you say, Jerry has a tendency to overpay. And I don't know if there's a team out there that can actually match what the Cowboys could give, at least not a contender. Well, but then, are the Cowboys contenders? Who the hell knows? All right, Dave, here I come. You ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, now, first of all, this is just my personal bias, but I really think that Ayahuasca would rather be a backup for the Vikings than a starter for the Steelers.
Wait a minute. I'm running out of popcorn. I'm running out of popcorn. I got it.
Even I wouldn't say that. Like I'm not saying the guy's totally trash. I'm just saying I just don't want him near. I feel like he's destructive. I don't want him near my team. I feel like he's a destructive guy. That's just he's crap at that point. A backup quarterback. Goodness, behind JJ McCarthy. That's what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Humbling
that's exactly what I'm saying. Is that from his actions, it seems to me that he would rather be a backup for J.J. McCarthy than be a starter for the Steelers. Otherwise, he's a sign. I mean, I think all this, going out and throwing with DK Metcalf, I think that's a bunch of bullshit. I don't think, But anyway, so
that's quite a spin. I mean, that's a spin that I didn't think that I would hear. Because the thing is, he's not coming to the Vikings and be a starter. He knows that.
Right.
He can come to Pittsburgh, and you're so afraid of that. You don't want to talk about it. He's the elephant in your room.
You don't want to talk it into existence.
I'm talking about it right now. I'm talking about it now.
Right. You're talking about him becoming a backup for the Vikings. That's what you're doing. No, you're evading the question, being very evasive.
I said it seems to me, and I said it was my personal bias, that I think that right now it seems to me that he would rather be a backup for the Vikings.
Why?
Than a starter for the Steelers.
Where did that come from? I haven't heard anything like that.
I think that came from James King.
So anyway, now why haven't we made some kind of overtures to Amari Cooper? We need some more leadership in our.
You gotta have a quarterback first. You gotta have a quarterback before you can build your team. You gotta have a quarterback first.
Well,
you gotta have a quarterback. You don't have one.
Well, Mason Rudolph's in the building.
Then why if that's the case, then why did we get DK Metcalf before we got a quarterback? If that's the case. But anyway,
Mike Tomlin. Ask Mike Tomlin that.
So
ask your guru. Ask your guru. He's the guru. Ask him.
What does Mike have to do with this? Why is Mike always getting the shots?
I'm not done yet, Mr. Scott. Like I said, I want to know why we passed on Amari Cooper, if we have. If there's been any talks, and then we're going to put Reggie in here. Is it the Arthur Smith offense? Is it so predictable?
We can just go ahead and get right to that right now. Absolutely.
Is it so predictable that that's why we can get to the playoffs, but we can't advance any? And last, Dave, is head coach Mike Tomlin being set up to fail this season. All right, Dave, you got the floor.
This is like a new show we just started. You just started a whole new show just now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, they have a deal out for Rodgers. They have an offer there. Everybody else is gone. Their plan had been to have either Fields or Wilson quarterbacking this year, and that
But
didn't
he's
happen.
the only one left. If you're down to the last, you don't have a choice. If he's the only one left,
How did the
what
Fields
choice do you
situation fall
have?
apart, Dave? Like, what happened with Fields? How did that fall apart?
Well, I think what happened there is Pittsburgh offered him a deal. He waited until free agency because they're free agent. They
Right.
signed him to a 1-year deal last year. And the Jets gave him an offer, I think 2-year, $40 million with $30 million guaranteed. I don't know if Pittsburgh countered, but he opted to go to the Jets. And I understand his reasoning. He doesn't have a future in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is aiming for 2026 to draft their quarterback.
Wow.
And so all the time, these guys, whenever they signed Wilson and Fields last year, they were just bridge quarterbacks. Get us through the next couple seasons. And in retrospect, they should have signed them to 2-year contracts. Well, they didn't.
For sure.
And that's on Omar Khan. And but they didn't, and they never really showed any interest in signing Wilson. So something tells me there that there was an issue between Wilson and Arthur Smith. There had been rumors about that, but the fact that they never mentioned attempting to sign Russell Wilson seems to indicate that there was some type of a schism there.
Wow.
So now you got Rodgers, and the thing is, it's like the way Pittsburgh operates, and people just don't. It's not like Art Rooney II is not Jerry Jones. He does not get involved in the day-to-day operation of the team. Plus, Mike Tomlin is not Bill Belichick. He's not like the super coach GM that makes all the decisions there.
You hear that, Mr. Scott? I think he needs to repeat that last part for Mr. Scott down there about Mike Tomlin.
It's a triumvirate, and basically the way it works, Omar Khan has been with the team longer than Mike Tomlin. Omar Khan has been with the team since 2001. People just say, "Oh well, he's been the GM since 2022. He's new, and Mike Tomlin is just telling him what to do." No, Omar Khan's been there since 2001.
So you're saying Mike Tomlin really doesn't have a say? Mike
Tomlin. No, if you allow me to explain, I'll explain to you how the Pittsburgh organization operates, which is a little bit different than what other teams do. So basically, during the season, Mike Tomlin, he sets the coaching, he sets the culture of the team, he indicates what he's looking for. Omar Khan is in charge of the scouting department, and in the offseason, he kind of takes charge in terms of all the personnel moves, the trades, re-signing or signing free agents, and getting the talent into the house. And Art Rooney II, basically, he doesn't get involved in the day-to-day operations, but like at training camp, he's there every day at training camp, and at the end of training camp, you see Mike Tomlin go over and talk to him at the end of training camp. Just kind of whatever they talk about for their 10 or 15 minutes after the final whistle blows. But their decision-making is they go in lockstep. You don't hear any kind of dissension between the three of them. And so basically, the way it is that it's not a top-down dictatorship in any way. The three of them come to an agreement, and they succeed or they struggle together. That's just the way Pittsburgh is.
And they've been mediocre for 20 years.
So 20 years. A very good team.
A very good team. They're the only team not to have a losing season since 2003.
I see that somehow that gets glazed over. Like they just always win, but it just doesn't matter. But they just always win.
And getting to James's point or question was Mike Tomlin thrown under the bus, or is he being set up? And it's like, well, no, he's part of It's him, Omar Khan, and Art Rooney II making the decisions to make together. And so you can't say that he was set up, because he was setting himself up.
You're saying that after all this time that Mike Tomlin is willing to pick up these bullshit players on one year deals and these mediocre ass deals, when you got guys out there that can help our offensive line.
Nobody was calling Wilson or Fields a bullshit player when they had 10 victories at the end of last year.
But they don't have to say
any of them bullshit players.
I like Fields.
Come on,
did we not like Fields?
Is what they're victim of.
You guys on Mondays threw the Steelers offensive line.
If you allow me to finish, with Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin,
I'm between the tag team of Dave and James King. There's a schism now.
Oh yeah,
between them. All of a sudden, it's a breakdown. I'm loving it. Keep going. I'm loving it.
Well, I mean, what the team and Mike Tomlin is a victim of right now is the NFL parity rules. And they haven't had a losing season since 2003. And the way the NFL is designed, and the way every other team, including the Vikings, including the Falcons, including the Chiefs, they've all gone through a down cycle where they've had losing seasons or been non-competitive in a season. Since Mike Tomlin has been there, they have never had every game up until the last game had playoff implications. So even in the years they didn't make the playoffs, they were one game away from making the playoffs. And that relevance, what that has cost them is they can never get a top 10 draft pick. And when you look at a first round draft pick, there's a big difference between the talent, the first 10 picks, and the rest. And so, like, for example, people on Steelers Depot, Dave Bryan, he had put out an exercise. He listed in 2022, whenever Kenny Pickett was selected with I think the 22nd pick, and then their next pick was George Pickens. He listed every player in between Kenny Pickett and George Pickens. And his question was, which of these players would you have rather Pittsburgh selected? And out of those, 30 players, most of them are nobodies. And I mean, it's like, yeah, they blew it with Pickett. But the thing is their circumstances are stuck with I think it's going to be Rodgers. He hasn't signed yet. And in terms of when he's going to sign, Mike Tomlin, when he was asked, he said, hey, we got until training camp starts. So he was unconcerned with it. Art Rooney II, when he was asked, because the national pundits are more excited about it than either Art Rooney II or Mike Tomlin or Omar Khan has been letting on, he basically said, well, yeah, I mean, we want him sooner, here sooner rather than later. But he didn't put a hard stop on it.
So Pickens is the receiver, right?
Pickens right. And DK Metcalf.
Yeah, Pickens is terrible. In the playoffs, he dropped everything that they
wait. Pickens is not a terrible receiver. Attitude issues, baby. What is your definition of terrible receiver? Pickens is not a terrible receiver.
Playoff, he dropped everything that they threw to him. Oh my
goodness, Pickens is not. Maybe attitude issues, but he's not trash though.
He's had a couple. He's probably had 3 or 4 drops in the last 2 seasons.
In that playoff,
some of the drops
he could be a lot worse than trash. He's not. You called him terrible.
Balls, but he's made catches that almost nobody else in the league can make.
I'm concerned about the quarterback situation. I'm still concerned about that. Like, what are we going to do? Even if we run a Rodgers this year, but the thing is, if all the eggs are in the Rodgers basket, is it Mason Rudolph? Legitly, we're looking at a Mason Rudolph situation. Is that looking really real?
Well, I mean, in the way Mike Tomlin has termed it, is he's comfortable starting Mason Rudolph. And then in our town hall that James King was talking about, then the question is what we discussed was, well, would you rather go with Mason Rudolph or James King, or with James King, with Aaron Rodgers, if they're both going to get you 10 wins. And it's like, well, you have a better shot of winning with Aaron Rodgers than you do Mason Rudolph. He's a better passer. He's a better quarterback.
Can you explain that? Can you explain that part to me, Dave? When
they're both going to get you 10 wins,
how Aaron Rodgers is a 10-win quarterback when he can't throw the ball more than 30 yards?
Because as Ben Roethlisberger said, Aaron Rodgers is a 4-time MVP, and he might not have.
That's what he used to be.
Aaron Rodgers wasn't trash last year, by the way.
Ben says, hey, he might have the body of a 41-year-old, but he still has the mind of a 4-time MVP, and he can still pass the ball.
Why would I listen to Ben when he stayed there 2 years too long? If it wasn't for Ben, we'd be in a better spot than we are now anyway. Why would I listen?
I mean, I think that's just, I mean, you're just
wonderful. I love it.
A better spot. I don't know if it would be a better spot than where's the better spot come from?
The year before Ben was injured, he led the league in passing yards.
I feel like towards the end, Ben had like a 4,000 to 5,000 yard seasons. He was pretty solid going into that.
Tomlin is the problem.
Oh, here we go. All right, so this is why I should have signed off a long time ago. I knew I should have stayed around. I shouldn't have stayed around for all this Tomlin hate and disrespect.
You can't stay somewhere forever.
If like Bo was saying, they're cheering in Seattle that DK Metcalf is gone, so he's a cancer there. People are saying George Pickens stinks like Anthony, and that he's a cancer. And people were saying like James, or like Reggie, well, Aaron Rodgers is poison. He hurts the locker room. Well, if there's any coach that's going to make that work between these three cancers to locker rooms, then this is going to be a real test of what Mike Tomlin can do. And if they end up with a 5-11 or 5-12 record, well, hey, it didn't work. But on the other hand, if they're up there 9-8,
does it work
vying for the playoffs? What's that?
Does it work if they're 8-9?
Yes, absolutely, because that means that they're in the playoff hunt.
No, I said 8-9. I said 8-9, not 9-8, 8-9. If they have that losing season that you're talking about.
Well, I mean, if they're 8-8 and then they go into the last game of the season, looking at if they win, they go into the playoffs, and if they lose, they don't. I would say yes, it's worked.
And if they lose 3 out of their last 4 games, like we did last year,
I think Rodgers has a shot at being a winner. I think Rodgers has a shot. I think if we started Rodgers, he's started a shot at a winning season. That's not even a problem for me. I think if it's a win situation, I think Aaron Rodgers does something in the tank for winning football games. It's just the other stuff, to be honest with you. If
Coleman can get these 3 guys to work together, well, then he's just demonstrating again why he's a Hall of Fame coach.
And is he the scapegoat if he doesn't?
With one Super Bowl win, you're
is he the scapegoat if they don't?
How is he not? How is he not a Hall of Fame coach? He's just never lost. He's never had a losing season in his life.
That's not what I said. I said, is he the scapegoat if they don't lose?
Well, he's not going to be fired, but what happens is that, because remember, 2026 they're supposed to be drafting their quarterback. Now, if he has this big losing season, and I think he's signed through 2027, well, then all of a sudden you could be at a point of where, okay, now it's the time to transition. We've given it a shot. We've given you a couple swings at getting to a quarterback that's going to take Pittsburgh back into Super Bowl discussions, because right now they're not in Super Bowl discussions. Then, I could see a point of where they decide not to extend his contract. But he's going to play through his contract unless he quits.
Oh, yeah.
But Art Rooney II will not fire him because he honors
I want to be the next coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, I could be mediocre. I'd love to.
How is winning all your games mediocre? He just has never lost. And what's funny? When you ask that question, I'll answer that question about is Mike Tomlin going to get the blame? Of course, Mike Tomlin gets the blame because when you listen to Mr. Scott, he's giving Mike Tomlin the blame and he hasn't even lost. Like, he gets the blame for winning. Well, if a guy gets the blame for winning, of course he can get the blame for losing. Like, of course, everything's going to be his fault. We got a guy railing on him. Yeah, never lost.
The only person that counts.
On that last comment by Reggie, I'm dropping.
There's only one person.
Okay, I'm dropping a flag on that comment.
Yeah, there's only one person that counts in assigning blame or throwing them under, and that's Art Rooney II. And Art Rooney II is not going to do that.
A very principled man, absolutely. He will
He
not
is
be doing
absolutely
that.
very principled.
Yeah. That's why one of the reasons I love the Steelers. It's not just Mike, guys.
Yeah,
and that's why players continue to want to play for him.
Yeah, and like I always ask Mr. Scott, if you're gonna just tell me who is gonna take Tomlin's place, who else is gonna give us 20 years of non-losing seasons?
Well, they'll find somebody. I mean, before Mike Tomlin, nobody dreamed that Mike Tomlin would be.
Of course not.
Right. Look at that run.
Nobody dreamed that. That came out of left field.
He was a defensive back coach for Denny Green here in the Vikings. That's what he was, and then he got elevated to the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then he had him here as a defensive back.
He got elevated to a Hall of Fame coach. Is what he got.
Well, I'm dropping it again.
He's going in. He's going in, man. You might as well get pissed now. He's going in there, brother. Yeah. He's headed that direction. Hall of Fame town.
So I mean, and again, I mean, I'm just trying to explain the way things are now. If when you look at the general fan base, Aaron Rodgers is a lightning rod for people. Just hate him. They hate him. They don't like him. They don't, I mean, the media skewed him for some of his stands.
That's why I want him to go to Pittsburgh. I want to see how you guys spin this
stuff like
when he goes to Pittsburgh. I want to see how you spin it.
It's just a locker room, man.
I mean, right now, to me, it's a done deal. If not Rodgers, who? Then it's Mason Rudolph.
That's kind of what it is now, to be honest with you. I feel like football, from a football winning standpoint, Aaron Rodgers isn't the worst. Like, he can win football games. I still think he has something in the tank to win football games if it's just a winning football game decision.
If you put him behind a decent line, now are we gonna all of a sudden develop a line that can keep him upright?
Well, it's a developing line, and that's another issue. They have a very young line. That they had two rookies, a starting center and a starting guard. You had your other tackle that was a second-year player, starter. I mean, it's a very young, developing line, and it's gonna get younger next year because Fautano is going to be coming in, and Dan Moore is gone. And Dan Moore was only in his fourth year.
We'll be lucky if Aaron Rodgers lasts 10 games, let alone starts.
Wait, how many games did he play last year? Did he play 10 games last year, right?
But he played behind a better line. He played behind. You don't think the Jets line is a better offensive line than ours?
I feel like Rodgers, player like old as Rodgers, got to get that ball out of there, man. I feel like he'll be okay. I feel like he'll be all right.
And so the whole question will be, will they be able to adapt to Arthur Smith's offense? And there's already people that are souring on Arthur Smith, but it's like he only had one year.
I stayed around for all of this, man. Arthur Smith, Mike Tomlin, hate and disrespect. Around this time, middle of the night, man, I could have just been, hanging out. I mean, yes, I fell for it. I thought the Mike Tomlin situation was working out, or the Arthur Smith situation, guys, was working out. Beginning of the season, and I kind of going like, maybe I was wrong about the guy. David talked about him being elevated maybe one level above where his core talents may be, and I was hoping that was going to be the case. I still don't know if he's terrible enough to say that I want him out of town, but I don't know why he would still continue to get opportunities.
Well, I'm willing to give him another 2 years. I mean, it's his first year. I mean, number one with Fields, they had a good scheme for Fields. Don't throw the ball way downfield. Don't turn the ball over. Run when it makes sense, and it led them to a 4-2 record. And then he went to Wilson, and they were rolling off some wins. And then the last 5 games, Wilson played bad, but the defense also fell apart. TJ Watt did nothing. The defense was just being rolled right over, and that was, I would put it as much if not more, on the defense than I would on the offense of those last 5 games.
Dave, go ahead. And before you give us your final thoughts, did we have a Sue's Corner tonight that I forgot?
Yeah, we do. So Sue's Corner, and this kind of goes back to baseball. So she says, prolific singer-songwriter, American icon Bruce Springsteen admittedly did not experience a lot of the things he wrote about in his famous songs. He never worked a day outside of music, so no blue-collar jobs, no factories, and didn't ever have his driver's license or motorcycle license for a long time, so no Thunder Road. The one song that was partly autobiographical was Glory Days. The first verse goes, I had a friend was a big baseball player. Back in high school, he could throw that speedball by you, make you look like a fool boy. Saw him the other night at this roadside bar. I was walking in, he was walking out. We went back inside, sat down, had a few drinks, but all he kept talking about was glory days. Well, they'll pass you by. Glory days in the wink of a young girl's eye. Glory days, glory days. This was actually about a guy from his hometown, Joe DePew. He and Springsteen grew up in Freehold, New Jersey, and played youth baseball together. The two ran into each other in 1973 outside a bar called the Headliner in Neptune City, New Jersey. Springsteen was walking in, and DePew was, well, walking out. But he turned around and they caught up at the bar all night, and several years later, in 1984, came out this big hit. And Joe DePew knew it was referring to him. Although he said he moved on from his glory days long ago, he was an excellent baseball player, the real rock star of town way before Bruce. At the end of high school, DePew tried out for the Los Angeles Dodgers before going on to play basketball and earning a degree at King's College in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Joe died this past weekend. He and the guys, including Springsteen, had kept up over the years, as Springsteen still lives a few miles from his hometown. So that's, I thought that was a pretty good story that Sue had about Bruce and his old baseball teammate.
I thought we'd give Reggie a little massage before we get off the air.
Right. Oh, well, I don't usually hang around this long. There was way more Mike Tomlin hate than I was told was going to happen if I stuck around this long. But I did. I stuck around and I take it. And also, I do want to go into my final thought here as Mr. Scott drops flags on my Mike Tomlin play. I feel like we could just talk Mike Tomlin again. We could just start this whole show over again, argue about Mike for another couple hours. But next time, I will bring down my Jim Brown. My autographed Jim Brown is right there. I can't touch it. It's like right there. But my autographed Jim Brown will be making an appearance next to R2 here, somewhere in this range here for one of the shows. I might have to pull him in here. Jim Brown, one of the greats.
Indeed.
Yes, sir. Oh, man.
Just on that, before you go, I want to just tell you, I don't know if I've told you before, but my dad had a cousin that was married to a guy named Bill Willis. And Bill Willis was one of the greatest NFL players for the Browns. He played with the Otto. He played for Otto Graham, Paul Brown. He played with Jim Brown when he was a rookie, and Marion Motley. Wow. Bill was a sprint champion in Ohio, and he was a lineman. He played the line, and every year he was all pro, but they couldn't sign him when he got out of college. And he went to Ohio State. So he went to a school in Kentucky, and he was the basketball coach, the football coach, and the athletic director. Until Paul Brown called him and said, now we can put you on the team, man. I think I can get you in. And he played 10 straight years, both ways, with the Browns. and he was one of those look All-Americans. They used to have a thing on, I think it was Ed Sullivan, and one of them shows with all the All-Americans, he was there. And so I had a chance to meet Bill in Columbus. He came to see me, him and his wife. I mean, it was just, look up Bill Willis. And you're going to
cool.
see,
No, I will.
You'll see one of the greatest players that played in the NFL. And
Well, I tell you my final thought, and I'm just going to quote Craig Staum out of the comments. My final thought for tonight, guys, quoting Craig Staum, Tomlin isn't a problem.
Thank you. Order has been restored. I can get sleep tonight, guys. Now I can get sleep. We have thank you for saving my night. Thank you. I appreciated that. Thank you.
Hey, Reg, good to talk to you, brother.
Good to talk to you, brother. Good to see you guys. Good to see you.
Good talking to you. Good listening to you, Anthony.
See you later, Russ.
All right, guys. Have a good one. See everybody next week.
Take care.
All right. Yeah. So, Dave, I mean, it's just kind of baffling to me why we're signing these guys to 1-year deals when we need so much help. And in order for us to get a quarterback, does that mean that we have to have we're going to tank so we can move up in the draft? Because otherwise,
if they were tanking, they wouldn't be signing Aaron Rodgers. They think they can win more games with Aaron Rodgers than they can win with Mason Rudolph. If they were tanking, they would just go with Mason Rudolph.
Then how are we going to get a quarterback if we're going to still be drafting at position 21?
Well, because that's why they let these players go to build up their compensatory picks, so that they can trade up next year. And it's supposed to be a stronger quarterback class. So probably they're going to look at the top 3 or 4 and try to be able to trade up high enough to get one of the quarterbacks that they're looking for.
You think we're going to be able to get a top 10 quarterback? I mean, a top 10 draft position?
I think that, well, that all depends on how they do this year. For example, if they were